Hey, welcome to a brand new episode of the Thru podcast, where we give mental health a voice and provide content to just try and engage as much as we can and take down the stigma of mental illness and the struggles that everybody is facing, particularly in today's climate. So we've got a very special guest today, and on the other end from New York is Talia, and she's going to talk to us a wee bit about her path in life coaching. And where I'm going to start, Talia, is that your title is Teens Growth Mindset and Success Coach. So first thing to ask is, obviously, firstly, welcome, but first thing to ask is how did you end up on this path, Talia? Why life coaching?
Right. Thank you for having me today here. And I think that definitely I didn't wake up one day and decided to be a life coach. I think that as for many of us, this self-discovery journey was a long one for me. I'm a passionate person about learning, and I love learning different things. And so I was like here and there learning about myself, who I am, what I'm doing here in life. But I think really, and I don't say like unfortunately, I think it's maybe fortunately for me that I took that route of happened to be depression. And so I went to therapy, and that was a first step to really dig deep into my self-discovery. And then when I came out of the depression, my next step was seeking for purpose and trying to understand what is my kind of bigger mission in life and how to live a fulfilled life. As Jay Shetty teaches us, volunteering is a good way around. So I started experimenting, trying different volunteering work, and there was one that really made me happy, and it was youth tutoring at the International Rescue Committee. And it quickly became the highlight of my week. And I started focusing more on that. And I became a mentor for kids, for teens, for high school students that I tutored and part of the community. And really, they inspired me. I'm obsessive with growth mindset. So it's like from the title, and the teens, their growth is exponential. They're in this developmental stage that they make this new neural connections in their brain, and you have this period of time when you can really wire your brain to have to advance in life and to create a successful life for yourself.
Yeah.
And I think that that like kind of like when you find this passion, just things fall into its places and everything aligns, and you find resources, you come along, like you meet new people that help you, or you hear something, you find courses and learning opportunities. So I think that's what happened for me. Those like little things just appeared and came together. And that's how I ended up at the Jay Shetty Certification School. It just literally appeared in front of me. I was like, I need to go there. And through this journey, through the school, I really kind of reconfirmed and reaffirmed for myself that this is truly what I want to do in life.
Absolutely. And I should mention, obviously, you said it there, obviously we get put in touch with yourself because of the partnership that we have with the Jay Shetty Certification School, which again, we're very, very grateful to be part of, because we get some amazing insight from you guys. And one thing I spoke to you about the other day, Talia, was that while it's an alliance with life coaches, everybody has a completely different niche. And there's one thing I always admit that I learn something new, no matter what area of life coaching it is. Every time I speak to a life coach. So yeah, I mean, like, obviously, I think your journey in particular is amazing because you've recognised a part, maybe like a time of your life where maybe you did struggle and then on reflection, you maybe look back and say, well, that's actually the time that's the age I want to help. Because like you say, it's a very crucial stage of learning. And just to clarify, when you say teens, we're talking sometimes in like kind of school age as well, maybe from like 12, 13 up until kind of leaving school.
Right. So I generalize teens, but really I'm focusing on, let's say 16 to 21,
Right.
like more of high school students and those that transition into colleges or further in life to work on whatever it is for them as the next stage. And definitely what you're saying, that I felt that myself. And when I was a teen, I was very lost, and I didn't understand myself, and I didn't think that anyone could understand me either. And frankly, I thought that something was wrong with me, and I wish that there was a person to tell me, I needed to hear those words, that nothing is wrong with you, and I just needed some support and encouragement, and I aspire to be that person for teens and young adults, to empower them, to discover their values, their strength, and to live the life aligned with it. And but truly, I say that I seek to empower them, but truly they empower me, because I really feel that they inspire me so much, and they allow me, working with teens, allow me to be the best version of myself, and to dream big. I think that adolescence is that age when we dream big. We don't know what's ahead, the future, and we have these big audacious goals and dreams, and sometimes I call that conditioning that comes from school, from cultures, from parents, and just society. Sometimes it pressures our dreams to be small, and I want to empower teenagers to keep those dreams big.
Yeah, and I think what's amazing about that is that you've I'm speaking personally here maybe, but when I look back to my kind of teens, there's a lot of kind of regret maybe sometimes, and a lot of maybe opportunities that weren't seized, and maybe some things that weren't taken advantage of. But what you've done is you've found a way to kind of reconnect with that, and maybe just make that even kind of better now. And it might sound cliche sometimes, but sometimes it is just that kind of giving back that kind of reignites it all. And obviously you're seeing purpose in that with many people now, and it's not just a case of kind of one or two. It's been able to reconnect in a lot of people. And I don't know, I mean, you've probably heard this one as well before, be the person you wanted to have around when you were younger, on that on those kind of lines, so imagine that's a big kind of driving force for you as well.
No, for sure. And I think that there are definitely some, when I look back and I see and remember different situations, and I do think about, how would I act on this situation, and what would be my response if I knew what I know now. And definitely it probably wouldn't take me until 30 to realize what's my purpose, and to know truly understand my values, and understand myself, and to have those relationship with myself. And one point that I also wanted to mention is that I often hear from others is why would you choose to work with teens? They're so difficult. And I don't see them as difficult. I don't I see them as complete, whole, creative, very resourceful people. And that I think that underlying belief of mine really helps me, because it's easy for me to see the potential in them, rather than see all their negative emotions or negative behaviors that they may expose, which because I know that it's not really true core them. It's the conditioning, it's the developmental stage of brain, which is like literally like physiology, that like certain parts of the brain are more developed than others. So the responsiveness is is upfront and their analytical skills are behind. So like it's I think it's that's like important point in my coaching to see that. And that's like also like how like I enjoy, like to me it's like I'm super curious about that. And just loving that part.
Well, I mean, it is a very objective way to look at it, because people will say that teenagers can be difficult. I mean, I know that you say you look at it with a more intriguing view. You're kind of more kind of fascinated. Well, there's obviously you know the reasons maybe why that can be, but I imagine it still throws up challenges as well. Like, what is the biggest challenge for that age group?
I think that like a social environment is and building relationships, and I think like it's mixture of feeling new emotions and how we express those emotions during that time or suppress them, which kind of was my case, where I was not expressing any emotion and I wasn't able to communicate the emotions. And so like the for the emotion part, it's important to learn the names of emotions. And sometimes we just we don't know that we call a spectrum of emotions by one word. Like I'm angry, but am I angry or am I annoyed, impatient, or something else?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's like because like by
All
naming
very
it,
different, yeah.
you can give different response to it and to act on it more, I would say, efficiently. With that. And I think that it's worth mentioning that now during the pandemic and different stages of lockdown and restrictions, the social isolation is a big issue for mental health with adults too, but
Yeah.
specifically with teenagers. And because a lot of times at that age, the whole world is about our peers, is about our friends, and we feel very connected to our friends, or we feel the need to connect with find new friends, or like it's like those social pressures of if you're at school and you don't have friends and everyone is like looking at you as like, oh, like
Yeah.
this person is like, oh, not
You're a lot more
good. And
sensitive at that age as well for that kind of stuff. You know, I think, and like I said, you're a lot more sensitive to that stuff at that age, because it's something you almost just learn to deal with by the time you're getting into your 20s in the workplaces and stuff like that. But for a lot of time, that's all happening for the first time in adulthood anyway, for that age. So and they're like, so they are more sensitive to that, and a lot of the time their experiences at that age, and I know this is why you're very passionate about it. Their experiences at that age will define how they respond to those social situations in adulthood.
right.
You know, and I suppose that's where you're trying to go in and attack and you know, make the difference in the most positive way you can there.
Right, exactly. Like to catch that moment before
Mm-hmm.
things go wrong
Yeah.
in the future, and like
Well, it's habits, isn't it? I mean, it's like anything else. Like something happens, and how you respond to it intuitively, and that then becomes a habit. So what you're doing is going there at its source. So when it happens for that first time, you're maybe kind of coaching a way out of that. You know, coaching a more positive way to deal with it, and that in turn makes us, I don't know, more open, more creative, and more you know, more kind of energetic maybe to kind of social situations and be stronger with them as we grow old. Yeah.
I think that it's also like, well, it's true. I'm trying to catch that moment of the first time experiencing those emotions and those situations, but I would add consciously, because
Yeah.
still like some of the limiting beliefs and preconditioned kind of behaviors are formed at earlier age, but they live into our subconscious mind. And as a teen, you make those conscious choices and decisions, and or at least you think they are conscious, and
Yeah.
but actually they're coming from subconscious. But I'm trying to catch that moment, we can at least start the conversation about it, about the situation, what bothers them, concerns and worries and fears, and go from there.
Yeah, because what you're getting at is that we do have the ability to choose how we respond, how we develop, and how we kind of grow. And the reason that we don't maybe is because we don't have that consciousness earlier on in life when we maybe just kind of fall into kind of programmed responses and emotions. And that's something I always pick up on when I speak to people that are doing what you do in life coaching, is that there is a point where you kind of catch the consciousness and develop it from there. So let's talk a wee bit about the kind of current situation just now then, because one of the things that I feel quite strongly about here is how the shutdown of kind of social interactions, schools for a period earlier on in the year, and it was all the impact of that's having on mental health, and still is. And it's I think now we're beginning to kind of see the long term impacts of that. But going back to the kind of people that you deal with and talking about schools, obviously where we're both based, there's two different approaches. Now schools here are all back full time. A bit of social distancing in place. I'm saying that because where you are in New York, what you're doing is a blended learning, and that's been the case since schools have come back. So the reason schools are back here full time is because they are taking into account that a lot of different factors, like for childcare, the kind of isolation, and as well as children's mental health, which is really kind of which is probably the biggest factor for schools being back right now. But when you guys have obviously done a blended learning approach, you told me that you can basically, families can have that discussion themselves and basically choose either way. Bottom line is that even if they choose to, they don't feel comfortable being back at schools, they're not going to miss out on that learning. Where I think here it's a case of, well, you're back, this is what's happening, and all this new anxiety of being around people and contracting a virus or health concerns, they're all coming to the fore now. So this is like a new type of, it's actually been quite counterproductive from what I see just now. Again, I'm not going to get too into it because these are things we need to kind of research a wee bit more deeply. But from your guys, from your approach in New York, it's a case of, well, they are taking the mental health of children into account.
Right. I think that it's how the blended learning kind of was, I guess, created is through basically their communication with families and different polls and different complaints and all that, and there were very diverse responses of among families, and there was a division of families who wanted and needed to go back to school, again, similar because of economical situation, the families, the parents needed to go back to work and they were not, didn't have access to childcare. That's one example. And also for those children with higher levels of anxiety because of social isolation, and sometimes not having the access to mental health treatments, the kind of going back to school felt more natural and almost necessary for them. And but there also were families that had higher anxiety levels because of their health concerns. Maybe their children or parents have different preconditions, different kind of situation. Why families would choose to stay with remote learning. And maybe there are different, some parents saw the decline in learning itself, like in academic performance during the remote learning. Of course, I mean, the teacher is not there. It's very difficult to hold the class together and like everyone's attention on a Zoom call and like Google Classrooms, whatever they use. And they're like, so all the different concerns that came in for New York Department of Education. And I guess like they tried to accommodate this approach of blended learning to allow families who wanted to go back to their children to go back to school to have this opportunity and option, and for those who preferred to stay with remote learning, they would have that option as well. And I think that was like coming to kind of the challenges about that I mentioned before about emotions, and I want to recognize New York State and New York City for declaring a focus on social emotional learning, especially during the transition period and reopening, but also including it into the kind of curriculum in general. And I think that it kind of was the ringing bell for them, all these like mental health issues that came up during the lockdown, how important it is to have the social emotional learning. Let's say like if that was implemented before the lockdown and pandemic happened, maybe we could prevent, and the children would have better chances to and options to deal with their anxiety and depression.
So it's quite a new concept, sorry. So social emotional learning, that's quite a new concept then, in terms of being implemented this year?
No, it was in there like before, but now they're trying to do it, I guess, more intentionally and more.
It's a wee bit more prevalent now, obviously, because it's needed.
Rather than just like, oh, it would be good to include and have these different programs that kind of involve these practices. But now it's really the focus, and it's included in the curriculum of schools.
Yeah.
And just to like, so social emotional, for those like maybe someone doesn't know what it is, social emotional learning is the process through which children, youth, and adults to acquire and apply knowledge, attitude, skills to recognize and manage one's emotions. And I don't know, like if it's worth like mentioning, there are 5 core competencies of social emotional learning. It's self-awareness, where you recognize your emotion, and also you recognize the effect of your emotion on others. And then you go like kind of move on the ladder to self-regulation, where you regulate your emotions and behaviors and responses to different circumstances and situations. Then there is a social awareness where you, it's the ability to take the perspective of another person and empathize, basically like empathy for another person's emotions. And then you build the relationships, social relationships, again, building, maintaining healthy relationships with individuals, groups, at different with different backgrounds, and the conflict resolution with those within those relationships.
Yeah.
And the final fifth one is the responsible decision making, where you make constructive, respectful choices about your communication, about your interactions, and your actions. So those are like the steps, and they are implemented within their curriculum or the policies in the schools. For example, like extracurricular activities and policies within class, so like those like kind of 5 core competencies, and they're implemented at different levels at schools.
Yeah, it's a fascinating concept because it's something that it's amazing that it was actually already there as well. Because I think if something was maybe in the back burner in a more kind of general sense, maybe like for other countries, it's something that it would definitely be one of the first places to go when trying to come up with a new approach for schools resuming and tackling new anxieties, particularly at that age. I trust it's a real kind of success as well, and it's been very, very effective right now. Um, and yeah, I mean, I suppose like I mean, from what you've seen and the people that you work with, how has the virus, how has the lockdown affected that age group in teens?
Yeah, I think that like what I see is the most is the social isolation, the effects of socialization, but which like I think like we discussed a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
But there's also like fears that projected on kids from their parents,
Mm-hmm.
uh, because like it's kind of if the parent, let's say, watching the news nonstop, and there's like all the bad stuff coming on,
Yeah.
and the child in the family would kind of apply that. Like it's like
Yeah, I think what you're saying is they'd adopt the anxieties, which is natural because, at that age, you become what the environment has bred you to be. Yeah, so when you're taking it into a more kind of social, interactive environment with other kids where maybe anxiety is lower, then you're going to have a lot of different emotions kind of flying about at a time of real uncertainty and real panic almost, Um, not to get kind of too bogged down in the kind of COVID situation just now. But the thing I take from it though, Italia, is that there was a choice there and there was a balanced approach. There was a real weighing up different factors, and people had the choice to go, to do, whether to go back to schools or to kind of work around it. Now I know there's going back or not going back, it's going to have different implications either way.
right.
But what that allowed to do is, the way I see it, is that if you're able to have control of that decision, then you're able to have a lot better control of your emotions, your anxiety, and how resilient you're going to be with your mental health. Is that fair to say?
Yes, but I think that it's also like important to distinguish between, because within the family,
Mm-hmm.
yes, the family, and I call it as a whole, like part of the society, right? The family has a choice, either like to have the kid go back to school or stay like with like not. It's still blended. You're not going
Yeah.
to school all day long every day, but it's every other day, and or you just
It's still
100%.
safer though, isn't it? It's still a safer approach than being in school every day. Like I'm like as I've told you before, we work as kind of reporters on a day-to-day basis anyway, and every day we're covering stories on different COVID outbreaks at schools, which is why I'm thinking, well, if they're that prevalent, surely there's excuse me, just as many cases now developing in schools as there is in like pubs and restaurants that have been closed, and things like that. And again, it's something I don't want to get too heated on or too. But it's something that keeps coming up for me every week in the news, and I'm beginning to think, well, and when I hear you say in New York you have an approach which, as far as I can see, is safer, and it's also taking into account the impact on mental health, then it does make me ask the question, why aren't we doing something like that here? But I suppose that's one that we'll both kind of monitor as we kind of as we go forward. But kind of going back to yourself and a lot of the kind of beliefs that we've spoke about already through your work and coaching. You've written us a fantastic article, which we've now got on the site, thrivethru.co.uk, and you speak about a lot of kind of real kind of reflective issues for yourself, and I think one thing that spoke to me straight away was this idea of real strength and how your vulnerabilities enhance your strength, and that's how you became a strong person yourself. And it also kind of got you to this notion of the inner compass as well. So just for, these are all your kind of core values. So just touch on them a wee bit for us and explain to them what you kind of mean by them.
Absolutely. And I think that I'm smiling because I love the concept of inner compass. And it's like, and coming back to like how I see teenagers, but truly every person. Every person has their inner compass. They have everything within them, what they need to face the challenges or like to overcome like certain circumstances and to live the life full of joy and fulfillment. And the concept of inner compass. I have my inner compass with me.
I love that.
But it's truly like to see yourself as a core, and it's very important to why it's called compass, because it's a guide for yourself in what direction you lean or need to go, or it's you know that when you make a decision, if you listen to yourself, to your values, and you also assess your strength, and you can move in that direction and follow that inner compass. And a lot of us just live the life without that inner compass, without knowing that they have that inner compass. And it's like having like when you open another like metaphor that come to up is when you create a business, you have a business plan. When we go into life, we don't have a life plan. We usually just most of us just flow around without really knowing what we are going, and like, or following the route that was prepared for us by our parents or other conditions or pressures and beliefs that we kind of took from outside world without looking within. And I think that that's very important part of awareness, to start with that awareness level that you have everything you need within you. I think that's like that was part of the question.
No, I love that because I must say that your article took me by surprise with a lot of it, because you do kind of cover a lot of like real kind of values, real kind of constructive values, and how you kind of live life. And I think everyone will be able to see from our conversation today that how compassionate a person you are, like to the youth especially, and then you've been there, you've experienced it, and now you know how to guide others, to get to that point as well. The thing it always comes back to for me is that it helps you find kind of true purpose, and that's something that people at that age don't see. It isn't in their horizon at that point. I suppose my question is, how important is that maybe to kind of see that a bit earlier in life, and and like have that kind of sense of purpose so young.
Right. And I think that like I want to link it up to the learning about emotions, because we also like, it's not just learning about negative emotions, it's learning about positive emotions and understanding it and catching, like if I felt passionate in the moment as a teen, let's say, and then like, but I dismissed it because I didn't understand it. And that was the opportunity for me to learn what's my passion, and maybe that could become my purpose. And so like passion is like for yourself, and purpose is for serving others. And so like it's like, and when we are teens, like some like, I mean, like I work with teens, so like I always mention like that group, but really it applies to everyone. At any age we can learn about ourselves. But yeah, like when we're teens, we just like we usually experiment with different hobbies and we try out different things. but not many of us really reflect on it and try to understand the emotion behind it and the circumstances, what caused it, and how can I recreate this. If it's positive emotion, how can I recreate
Mm-hmm.
this emotion? And I think I also like mentioned in my article that you can't numb the pain without numbing the joy. And it's, to me, like when like I didn't realize it really until recently, because I always thought it's like, well, I had a good life, like it's like I had good family and
Mm-hmm.
have different opportunities. I traveled, like I found like all these good things, but I don't remember feeling that joy in my life. And I think that's and when I realized, because like I was numbing the negative emotions, I suppressed them, so I couldn't like I couldn't feel any of part of it.
Yeah, yeah.
Like a trick there. So it's important to express your positive emotions. If you're joyful, be joyful and like really acknowledge that oh, like this is a cool moment right now, I'm enjoying it right now, and do like a mental picture of this moment, and
Yeah.
that.
And I suppose equally, to make sure when the not so well moments, you're also feeling them and experiencing them as well. Otherwise, you're not going to experience those highs, if you like. You know, you're not going to have that kind of same relationship with your, your good feelings of joy and positivity. If you're numb, if you're too busy blocking out everything else, because it's not one or the other. It's normally a case of both. Yeah,
Because it's like the brain operation is similar in that sense. Like it's certain triggers that causes the different emotions, and if you cut on those and numb those, then you cut off everything.
absolutely. Okay, though. Well, I mean, Talia, I think what you've the insight that you've given us today is has been really interesting, and it's one of those ones, especially when we're talking about mental health in young people. It's definitely a very fascinating concept because I think sometimes the younger you kind of go down with certain issues, the more taboo it is. But it's also because that's where more issues maybe sometimes lie. So I feel like it's very, very strong values, strong stuff that you're putting out there. And again, I'm going to plug your article again because I think it's a must read. So Talia's post on kind of redefining success and purpose is available now on thrivethru.co.uk, as is this deeper chat on all of Talia's work, and that will be available on Apple Podcasts and Spotify, and obviously YouTube as well. So, Talia, thanks very much for joining me, and again, continue doing the great work you're doing, and thanks for joining us on Thrive Through.
Thank you. Thank you. I really appreciate for giving me this platform to share my thoughts and my passion. And I really hope the idea is that I really hope that coaching and mental health will not be a taboo, or there's won't be stigma about that. And I really want every teenager to know that nothing is wrong with you.
Absolutely, thanks, and I'm sure we'll meet up again at some point, Natalia, on this and talk about it more. All right, thanks so much.